I think it was at a game, last week's game, and they're like, "Oh, that was so funny! Like you guys sped your voice up," and I'm like,
No. There's no VFX here.
Yeah, that's what they thought. I was like, no, that I did that.
That was pure,
man. Come on,
baby.
give me some credit, man.
Seriously. All right, you ready, bud?
All right.
Hit the theme. This is the College Football Enquirer. I am Andy Staples here with Ross Dellinger and Stephen Godfrey. And of course, if you want to watch us moving and breathing on your television, turn it on, look at the home screen, find the Yahoo Sports Network icon, click it, and click on the College Football Enquirer. Also, if you'd like to see us 24/7 on your tablet, on your phone, go to yahoosports.tv. You can watch the College Football Enquirer, Yahoo Sports Daily, all of the incredible shows that Yahoo Sports has to offer. So go to yahoosports.tv and check us out. Moving. But if you want to just listen, we love you too. Gentlemen,
the dulcet tones.
This is a crazy week of games, but there's also been a lot of wild news. So we did the Tuesday show, and then on Tuesday after we recorded, we learned that John Mateer has to have surgery and that Mike Gundy is fired. We'll start in Norman with John Mateer, who was a revelation. We knew he was good coming out of Washington State, but he's been awesome for Oklahoma this year. He was the leading candidate for the Heisman Trophy, according to all the sports books. He's out for 3 weeks, a month, which means he misses the Kent State game. No big deal. He misses the Texas game. Huge deal.
Eesh.
Yeah, bigger deal. And I think there's been various sort of reporting, right? But it seems to be that the consensus is that Texas will be really hard, right, for him to get back, right? It's going to be like, that's going to be a
South
really
Carolina
tough one.
after Texas is a maybe.
Yeah.
Texas feels like a pretty hard no.
Yeah. So, this was pretty surprising news, I think, to most people, right? Because when you look back at the game, you can even go back to seeing some replays of the game, and it's hard to even find when it happened.
Yeah. It happened in the first quarter. He makes a throw, and it looks like his hand hits the helmet of an Auburn defender, and he just played through it. So I was at the game. Yeah. Certainly didn't notice anything about his play at the game. He comes to the post-game press conference. He wasn't looking odd. He didn't have it all wrapped up in a ball or anything like that. He took questions. He sounded completely at ease, and like nothing was amiss. And then you find out he has to have surgery. And then also, they won't even really know the recovery timeline until after the surgery, which took place on Wednesday. And there was an Oklahoma fan at Cedars-Sinai in L.A., like, of course, bringing an Oklahoma flag to the surgeon.
Nice.
Saying, please take good care of our guy.
That's rational irrationality. I'm in favor of that. That's not in the pantheon of SEC fan behavior. Good job. Crazy, alarming. You might want to review some security
you didn't poison a tree,
but
so that's good.
Yeah, like
Oklahoma does fit right in.
There's no court charges. Yeah, there's there's nothing you're going to go to court for. Yeah,
one of us.
That's fine. After I heard about it, I did what you did, Andy, which is I looked for it and I couldn't find it. Very different than the Angeli injury for Syracuse, where you instantly knew, like non-contact as he's heading forward, ends up being the Achilles, obviously, but like you knew that's the end of the season as soon as it happened. But yeah, you know what? So that's really positive behavior from SEC fans. Like, congrats, guys.
It is. Now, it brings up an interesting point about how this process works, because we've talked about Oklahoma's schedule, which is one of the hardest schedules in the country. The Texas game begins a 7-game stretch that I feel like even the really tough schedule, so Wisconsin, Florida, Mississippi State, all those are pretty tough. But this in a row, the cumulative effect of this particular one was going to be hard no matter who was playing, no matter how good your team is. And now Mateer out for some of it. So here's how it goes. Texas at South Carolina, Ole Miss at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri, and LSU. So, if they lose to Texas without him, though, I'm curious.
All right.
Because this was a team with that schedule. You said 9-3, you may be in the discussion for a playoff berth anyway if you go 9-3 against that schedule. But if you go 9-3 against that schedule and one of the three is because you didn't have John Mateer against another playoff contender, I think the committee may be forgiving of that.
Mulligan, a little bit of a mulligan there. We've seen the committee. In the committee bylaws, right? It says you have to consider injuries and all that stuff. And of course, a couple years ago, we know that they did do that with Florida State. So they are supposed to do that. I would assume that they will, and keep that under consideration. Now, I don't know, and you guys are going to know way more than me about this. The backup, is it Hawkins?
Michael Hawkins Jr., who played several games last year where they basically benched Jackson Arnold. Hawkins beat Auburn on the road, was the starting quarterback for one of the most lopsided, ugly Texas-Oklahoma games you've ever seen in your life. Texas won 34-3 and probably could have won 1,000-3.
Yeah.
With a redo.
With Red River, the dynamic of Red River is still the Texas quarterback against the Oklahoma defense. That doesn't change. I think I'm buying your theory, Andy. If we're looking at 2 losses and then maybe an inevitable third at full strength with Mateer back, and if those 2 losses have a respectable margin, I think that we would test this theory from the committee for sure. I don't want to. Hypothetical. So if you lose by 10 to Texas, and then maybe it's Ole Miss or Tennessee, one of those 2 teams, and you're losing again in that range. Yeah, and then he comes back and you storm through. You beat Alabama, Missouri, and LSU. God, how many ranked teams are they playing?
Yeah, it's like 8.
Exactly.
It's like 7 or 8.
Oh my God!
Every time you look at the schedule, it looks worse.
The worst team. They have Kent when they come off the bye. Okay, the worst team is Lenore Sellers in South Carolina, depending on Sellers' health. That's
and they can beat anybody.
Worst team.
Like they can beat anybody.
Is that in Columbia?
That is in Columbia.
It is in Columbia.
Golly, man, that is brutal. That's like the Florida schedule.
This is the worst.
It's worse. It's worse because of the cumulative effect of all the games in a row.
Yeah.
Where does I still use the old-fashioned, the Sagarin ratings. I don't know if you guys ever still use that.
I've not looked at those in a long time.
No, they have a good
schedule metric.
Schedule. Yeah, I like the strength of schedule metric, and so I was going to check it out right now as we're on the air. Oklahoma's is, oh wow, that's not 42. That seems like surprising.
Well, that's what they've played so far.
Oh, okay.
It adjusts as the season goes on.
Yes, of course, because Notre Dame is number 1, and that would make sense. Yes. Okay.
According to the Bible, Phil Steele, 7th hardest schedule preseason in the country.
No, it's the first hardest schedule. Said it all year. Firmly believe it. All due respect to Florida, to Wisconsin, to Mississippi State, who have very difficult schedules.
Also,
this is the worst.
Phil, he called that one. His number 1 was Wisconsin. Guess what, Phil? You were right about that one.
Yeah. Well, they're going to make it look like the most difficult.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So here's the thing, though, about this, about Oklahoma going forward. And they're off this week. They play Kent State next week. They're hopeful to get Giovanni Gibson back, who is the big receiver that they got from Arkansas Pine Bluff, who was blowing up in spring practice and then broke his leg. So they get him back against Kent State. He'll be playing against Texas. The defense is awesome for Oklahoma. And I think we got so used to Oklahoma having a bad defense during the Lincoln Riley era that we haven't quite wrapped our heads around how good this defense is. They sacked Auburn 10 times on Saturday. Their defensive line is as deep as anybody in the country. I think they do have the best set of defensive tackles in the country in Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson, and David Stone, because these are all guys. They're all 300 plus pounds. They all can play the run, but they all can give you interior pass rush. They've got edge guys. Like Auburn has a good running game. They were running a really light box all second half because Auburn's offensive line couldn't do anything against those D tackles. So I think there's a chance that Oklahoma's defense allows them to be very competitive against Texas. Like Oklahoma's defense against Arch Manning, I'm very excited for.
Well, yeah, that's what I was about to say, right? Not only with Arch, just in general, like Texas has kind of struggled to consistently move the ball. Maybe that's because of Arch's struggles, but you would think that could be like this low-scoring, tight game, even without Mateer, which would really sort of give them that mulligan with the committee if they end up losing a tight one, but play really well. So that's certain.
Let's move elsewhere in the state of Oklahoma. where there are no more mulligans. Mike Gundy was fired on Tuesday afternoon, and 69-3 loss at Oregon. They come home, they lose to Tulsa on a Friday night. Clearly, it wasn't going to get any better, but this is such a hard thing, guys, because you can't not acknowledge that Mike Gundy was the greatest coach they ever had. He took them to places that honestly, if you went to an Oklahoma State fan in 2005 and told them what the Mike Gundy career arc would be, they might not even believe how good they got.
Definitely. Yes, absolutely. However, time changes. And I think this is the logical end. You said, to tee this up, you said they were out of excuses. Mike Gundy exhausted every explanation possible. No, I'm like, I'm not even doing a bit here. Like,
no, it's true though.
The last offseason cycle, we kind of got a little bit of this. I've been down before, but, I always bring them back, kind of pablum from Gundy and from Oklahoma State supporters. They'd never been as down as they were last season. You didn't have system failure, which is what you encountered. Why? I would like to talk a little bit about NIL and portal, but first I would also mention that Gundy was an excellent gambler for a long time on finding good assistants. A lot of people came through. It was a weird pedigree to come up through Gundy. We talked about Jim Knowles on Tuesday, but just guys like, I always mispronounce his name, Mike Yursich.
Mike Yursich came from Shippensburg.
Pulled out of Shippensburg, where I remember I was at his first game as OC. They played Mississippi State in the Texan Stadium, and he was talking about living in on-campus housing with his wife, and they didn't have an air conditioner, and all of a sudden a Division I power program is calling. Gundy did that and did it, kind of had an alarming success rate for a long time. The problem is you live by the sword, you die by it. And it hasn't worked out. I can't remember the name of the D2 guy that he tried to do this with offensively with. Most recently had to fire him. It's Gundy's insistence on certain things and his resistance on others. And then finally, it is ultimately, this is another cautionary tale of sort of steadfastly and very publicly refusing to adapt to what was changing in college football. And a change that we've emphasized a lot in the offseason, but really, this was a change you had to adjust to. This was a seismic sea change in the sport of college football, and Gundy was one of the poster boys for resisting. You see what that gets you now.
Yeah, Godfrey, I think you began it with times change, and I'll add, but people sometimes don't.
No, sir.
Right? And I think that we saw that. Well, perhaps we're seeing that in a certain South Carolina town, college town. And we saw that obviously in Stillwater. And think of all the sort of other coaches and honestly athletic directors as well that have retired or, gotten out of the business early because they either didn't change or, didn't want to change. They were like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, there's an entire generation of ADs leaving about 5 years probably ahead of when they would have.
Yes.
Because they're like, we've made our money. Yeah. I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah. And I have a ton of respect for the latter. I remain critical because that's kind of like my job of the former, because this idea that you can shoehorn in a methodology that doesn't exist anymore, we're seeing that come to failure at major programs. And this was one of them.
Yeah. And even the best coach we've ever seen. Right. He was like, you know what?
Oh, he quit.
I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to deal with this thing anymore.
Yeah. And it's not like Nick Saban couldn't adapt because we watched Nick Saban adapt
over the years. Oh, yeah.
He's just like, I'm tired of adapting.
It's like, I don't want.
It was a dramatic adaptation. I think we can talk a lot. It's funny how we can go from Gundy to Saban, but I do think there's a striking parallel here.
No, I actually don't think it's that huge of a leap. What Gundy did at Oklahoma State was amazing.
Yes, full stop. Absolutely.
Legit amazing.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. No, I don't want to take anything away from the man because, I've made one Wisconsin reference. We talked about it last week. Wisconsin abandoned a philosophy that worked so steadily for them. You could set your watch to Wisconsin football for a long time.
But this doesn't have to become a Wisconsin discussion, but Wisconsin isn't having these problems because Luke Fickell hired Phil Longo. Wisconsin is having these problems because Wisconsin doesn't want to buy better players.
This is where I'm going.
The people in the Big Ten who want to be competitive do. And you have to care about winning in a certain way.
In a certain way, Andy. Luke Fickell and Mike Gundy didn't get dumber in the last 2 years about scheme about play calling, about their side, offensive and defensive respectively. They are no less intelligent schematically or as player development coaches. They don't have players because for one reason or another, or to one degree or another, they have not metaphorically bought in and then literally bought in to what it takes to build a roster in 2025. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Oklahoma State as a university, I don't know, Ross, you tell me. I think they're willing to back this in a way that's pretty competitive within the Big 12. From talking to agents and to some coaches, I think you'll be surprised at how many people want this job. They feel like they can win that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, especially in that league, right? I mean, it's just kind of like anybody's sort of like championship every year. It feels like just the way the parity of that league is now. Texas Tech may be changing that because the way sort of they're spending and what they're doing with the players they do get. It's early, we'll see. But I wanted to go back, and this is a good segue into Chad Weiberg, the athletic director there, who, by the way, is apparently getting a new contract and will lead the search, which he's been working without a contract for a few months, I believe.
Hey, Chad, we'll give you a new deal if you be the hatchet man for the greatest coach of all time.
If you fire the coach. So now I've been told that the Weiberg contract isn't, signed, sealed, delivered, but that it's supposed to get there. But I want to go back to his statement that he released when he fired him. Here are some of the words peppered throughout: investment, critical, pivotal, unwavering commitment, in support was used, I think, 4 times in his quote. 4 times. So it's pretty clear this is the Whit Babcock type of, right? Like, we need money. Please support our roster by giving us money so we can not just pay coaches anymore but also invest in the roster.
This is to fully fund rev share.
Yes, but they weren't going to do that, Andy, with Mike Gundy at the helm. When Virginia Tech opened, the consistent comp that was made to me by sources, if you will, was that this is an Oklahoma State situation, but I'd rather be at Oklahoma State. That's what everybody in the industry told me. And I was like, well, why? What's the deal? And he goes, because the money at Oklahoma State is waiting for a reason. The money at Oklahoma State can be mobilized, encouraged, and they can also be galvanized by what's happening in Lubbock. Because, Ross, you said it, this league was thought to be it was going to be inherited by somebody. Maybe Oklahoma State, maybe Baylor, maybe TCU, or maybe Texas Tech. So far we know where that's headed. And when we get into the game previews, this weekend's going to suss out everybody under Texas Tech in that second sort of like tier of the Big 12. Oklahoma State was not the money around Oklahoma State, I should say, not the actual university. Gundy made them gun shy. I'm not even trying to make a joke there. I'm sorry, Pistol Pete. But like Gundy was not the person who was going to get the wallets to open because of his prior actions. That's why, Andy, to sort of put a pin on it, it was time. He was great, and he was exceptional at working a tight margin at that program when they did have to go up against the Red River teams, when they did go up against the sort of halcyon days of the Big 12. They were amazing for what they did. I'll always like. Remember that Friday night game, the Iowa State loss? Like, they were so close to breaking through.
I was at that game.
That was what, 2011?
2011.
That puts LSU.
And I'm still not sure the field goal didn't go in.
Yeah, and they were closer than a non-Oklahoma State fan or a non-Big 12 fan would probably think to breaking through in a way that really was remarkable for the time. But it definitely was time to move on from his mindset.
So there's a lot of examples, probably, Godfrey, what you're talking about, where in the NIL era, like the donors, right, didn't want to give for the roster because of that coach. They didn't trust that coach, basically. And I just think of the one that always pops into mind is Brian Harsin at Auburn.
Yes.
Oh, God.
The early days of NIL.
Oh, they starved him out.
Nobody was given purposely. Yeah, that's exactly right. They purposely.
It was Alan Green too at Auburn. There was such a dissatisfaction across the board with striking out in the Harsin search, and then there was a disconnect and a sort of like, Alan Green. Do you guys remember when Alan Green posted the video of him making the free throw shot after they had hired Harsin? They like turned it into a little like house video. They put out on social like, I got this, I nailed it. That polarized. Ross, I think you're dead on. That's probably the best case study for, okay, you did something we didn't want. The checkbook is closed. Try and survive without us. And it lasted, basically 2 years.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens at Oklahoma State. My guess is the checkbooks start opening up and they will probably hire someone young and someone willing to play the game the way it's played now. Speaking of the way the game's played now, there are a lot of balls in the air that could change how the game gets played. We've got Ross's Congressional Minute coming up, plus an interesting discussion amongst the commissioners who run the college football playoff. We'll be right back. We're back at the College Football Enquirer, and Ross Dellinger, you were in Chicago for a meeting among the commissioners who run the college football playoff, and they have they've decided to have some more meetings, maybe form a working group.
Yeah, this is often the joke when the CFP commissioners, which of course are the 10 FBS conference commissioners and Notre Dame's athletic director, that's the 11-member group that make up the CFP management committee. When they get together, often the joke is that they are meeting to discuss when they're going to meet again. This meeting mostly was 4.5 hours. In 20 minutes of the 4.5 hours they spent talking about the future format. So all the 4 hours, you don't need to hear about it. It's a bunch of minutia stuff, governance stuff that's really boring. But for the 20 minutes, they did discuss a working group, or at least it was mentioned by the power conferences, of creating sort of a working group of power conference athletic directors. So 2 or 3 ADs from each of the 4 leagues may soon get together and examine playoff formats and start to throw anything against the wall. And of course, my question was, why are you doing this now, right? We've had plenty of working groups, plenty of time to study this. And the answer was, well, the commissioners can't come up with anything. They're sort of divided. There's some hard feelings in the room, a room among the 4 and certainly among the 11. So let's get the ADs involved. And so the ADs will get involved, and they'll maybe try to hammer out something in the next 2 months by the December 1 deadline. That's the deadline. They need to make a decision for next year's format. By my betting man, like I've said on the show before, I'm betting they don't make a decision by then, and we'll stay at 12 for at least a year. But that was sort of like the news from the CFP. The other news item from the CFP was that as part of this working group, which are sort of being led by a few Big Ten athletic directors, they've sort of socialized a format that would be 20-plus teams, and it's sort of a concept that would grant automatic qualifiers, the same amount of automatic qualifiers to the 4 power conferences. We've talked a lot about that 4-4-2-2 format where the SEC and Big Ten get 4 AQs and the ACC and Big 12 get 2. Well, now they've kind of socialized a concept of, hey, we might be open to talking about 4-4-4-4. And so I don't know if that's a way to get the ACC and Big 12 in the room or what, but we'll see kind of what happens from there. But that is the latest from Chicago, Andy.
I feel like somebody needs to go to the Big Ten, to Tony Petitti, to the ADs, and be Regina George and just say,
yes.
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Nobody
wants this. Now, I agree with you that they might get the ACC and the Big 12 on board. They're not going to get the other conferences on board with that. I guess it doesn't matter. They just need to get the Big Ten and the SEC to agree. I don't think the SEC is going to agree to that. But more importantly, more immediately, it does seem like the 2026 playoff will be a 12-team playoff. Personally, I kind of hope they just keep doing that, and people realize, hey, 12 is a good number. Maybe just stay there. I don't think they will, but
okay. I said I'd be really quiet on this segment because we have a lot of football to talk about. I just want to say this: every time I meet one of you people in a press box or whatever, they're like, "Why are you so hard on the executives? Why do you always make fun of the aide?" Do you know how dumb you people sound? Do you know like when Ross comes back and says that, like, basically they got together and I had to fly out there to like hear them talk about meeting to meet, and this all could have been an email or a text. Y'all make politicians look efficient. Okay, that's it. Go ahead, Ross. I will continue to make fun of all of you. You are all grossly overpaid to do nothing. Sorry.
Yes, there you go. Well, we'll see if the ADs can do.
Ross is like, the opinions of Stephen Godfrey do not represent the opinions of Ross Dellinger.
At least continue talking to me. Tell them the facts.
At least once a week, I have to apologize to Ross's sources for immediately going after them.
It's fine.
Ross
This is
didn't
the
say it.
yin
I
and
did.
yang. This is what's great about the pod, you know?
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting. Andy, I think you make a great point. It would be surprising to me if the SEC were to jump at sort of this concept, because we remember about a month ago when it came out that the Big Ten was floating this 28 or 24 team where it was an uneven amount of power conference AQs. Even that, the SEC presidents and the commissioner, I think, were sort of like pretty cautious about it. In
the SEC, I think if we want to predict what the SEC will do, I think we can always safely predict the SEC will always act to protect the power gap between itself and those below it. This does not protect the power gap.
No.
So they're not going to do that.
No, the idea, this concept that, again, is just sort of early stages thrown against the wall, just like it was a month ago. This one's a little more vetted out, maybe, but it'll get more vetted out in the room of the ADs, allegedly. But it's the 4-4-4-4-2 for the group of 6. So the highest ranked 2 champions from the group of 6 conferences. And then a big at-large pool that's kind of contingent on how big the whole thing is. The 20 is a 24, or,
right.
It probably isn't going to go past
their
24.
thinking is the SEC will like a bigger at-large pool, so just add more teams.
So the concept I heard is 6, right? 6 at-large. So 4-4-4-4-2-6. In the 6 at-large,
did Moses Malone come up with this one?
When you crunch the numbers,
I understood that reference. Oh man, I'm getting old.
When you crunch the numbers, the SEC and Big Ten should get probably each average will probably get 2 of those at-large pool, if not 3, which gets them up to 6 or 7 in the playoff, which is where they'd like to be.
Yeah, the 7th best team in any league doesn't deserve to be in the playoff. Can we just stop this stupidity?
Yeah.
Just stay at 12. Just stay there.
Well, at least for a year, I think you will get your wish. And, there's still this 16 thing on the table. I'm sure they'll discuss that, the ADs, when they get together. And that is the 5-11.
I'm okay with that because it doesn't add around unless they do something
Yeah.
stupid like double buys.
Well,
don't do that either.
That's part of anything you get above 16. You're adding around, and you're probably getting rid of conference championship games.
Can I just one question?
He can't help himself. It's great.
It's fine. We have like 2 more minutes of our 10 minutes. We said we were going to
Okay. We're meeting to meet, and we're talking about expansion, and I'm actually fine with that. 24 seems insane, but 16, sure, I'll listen to that conversation. Are the broadcast partners who actually, the networks are the people who run the sport, are they involved? Because you can't find, we're playing the Final Four at like 9:45 on a Thursday night right now. We don't even know how to schedule this because we're so afraid of the NFL. Are they involved in like a potentially, we're going to do 60 football teams playing in the postseason? We can't even find a time to put this stuff on television. I'm trying not to swear.
So, great point. Obviously, ESPN is in some of these conversations when they're in the big room, because ESPN has people sort of in the consultants, you might say.
Oh, buddy, they got
big
folks
room.
in the walls.
Yeah, but when they're not in the big room and it's just the 4 commissioners meeting, which they're often been done in talking about format, obviously ESPN's not in the room, it's just the 4. But in any in any format that's over 16, you're going to have to like blow up the conference championship games. If you have a bunch of AQs, you're going to potentially do the play-in games, the interconference play-in games that was talked about a lot in the spring. So
another thing they need to stop trying to make happen, even though it would be fun, it's just dumb. Like having games between your best 2 teams to determine who wins the conference makes sense. Having games between 6 and 3 don't.
Well, and this is what
sense.
the SEC coaches didn't like, right? One of the many things they didn't like about the 4-4-2-2 16
and it's rare that millionaire SEC coaches, who are some of the most paranoid human beings on earth, are the proxy for the common man. But I think they are in this case.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody liked that proposal. At least no one I've come across.
Well, the Big Ten loved it. So,
but they're not real.
The Big Ten loved it.
We don't really listen to the nerds.
SEC ADs, I think there was a decent amount of SEC ADs.
Ross is right. There were SEC ADs that were like, this sounds all right to us.
They were kind of ready to, I think the majority of them were ready to go. I don't know that I've ever said this. I was told the first day of SEC spring meetings that if they voted that day, if the ADs voted that day on the 4-4-2-2, the 16-team model, with all the playing games and all that it would have probably been a 13-3 yes vote in the AD room. And then Kirby Smart came the next day and went all over it. And so did all the coaches.
Why are
they saw data from Greg Sankey.
Why are they so bad at that? Why is it so
We can
dumb?
bleep this, but I just imagine Kirby Smart walked in and was like, y'all, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
They didn't want to play each other in the playing games, and they wanted a bigger at-large pool because they thought they could get many more than 4, right?
But why? How do you have a system in which you're going to vote and then you find out that your own head coaches are like, are you high? Like, how did, like, this is such a stupid sport sometimes.
That was the exact question asked by many in the Big Ten when they saw the result of the SEC spring meetings was, wait a second, you guys had not consulted your coaches about this?
Well,
and
that's what the meeting's for.
That was, I guess so.
Apparently the Big Ten and the commissioners who run the college football playoff, when the SEC has meetings, it is about things of substance.
They showed data.
And they talk about them and things happen.
Greg Sankey showed data and numbers and whatever. And the coaches were like, yeah, why are we doing this 4-4-2-2? We would like 5-11, have an 11 at large pool. Andy, I think I heard a buzzer and our CFP 10 minutes is over.
Hold on. You're right. You're right. It is time. That's over.
No,
Speaking of
I'm
buzzers,
excited for the
Hold on, I'm starting the timer.
Do you need to do a vocal warm-up?
For Ross's Congressional Minute. If you didn't see it last week.
The jaw. Yeah. Got to use
it. Was amazing.
Loosen the jaw.
We've
got a theme.
Kind of pressure on me now.
So here.
Louisianans don't normally talk fast. Y'all have a sort of, loquacious thing, but you really killed it last week. That's right.
There were people that I ran into, by the way.
Yeah.
That I think it was at a game, last week's game, and they're like, oh, that was so funny. Like, you guys sped your voice up. And I'm like, no.
There's no VFX here.
Yeah, that's what they thought. And I was like, no. That I did that.
That was pure, baby.
Come on, give me some credit, man.
Seriously.
Yeah.
All right, you ready, bud?
All right. Yeah.
It is time for Ross's Congressional Minute. Hit the theme.
The SCORE Act was at the center of the discussion in conference meetings this week in Chicago, and progress was made among the 32 D1 conferences in coming together to support the legislation, which, as we know, has been delayed because of various factors, one being that 10 non-FBS conferences formed a coalition requesting amendments to the act, a move that some in the power conferences believe slowed the bill's progress toward a vote. It's a contentious issue that bubbled up this week in Chicago. However, during meetings, the power leagues and the 10 non-FBS coalition leaders began to make progress on a compromise that would see changes to the legislation related to governance and D1 membership standards. Today in D.C., actually, Greg Sankey will be on hand speaking to the annual convention of the Congressional Black Caucus, which is a key group of lawmakers potentially needed next month when the SCORE Act is brought back up. By the time you're listening to this, we'll know more about what Sankey said and told the CBC members and maybe where they lie on a vote. But changes to the bill are expected, both from the aforementioned compromise with the 10 non-FBS conferences, as well as softening language that may appease Texas billionaire Cody Campbell.
Oh!
Wow!
That was tighter than last week. That was
incredible.
Week. Yeah. Did you? Are you timing it yourself, or did you know to bring it in on that?
I timed it. No, I mean, I read it like 3 or 4 times and timed it. So yeah.
I'm very
now,
proud.
After all
really good. That was really good.
Let me tell you what the Congressional Black Caucus is going to say to Greg Sankey.
Can we get
ready?
Bleep it? Can we bleep it?
It's kind of like what Kirby Smart said to the AD.
Can we bleep it?
That they're going to say is, hey, you know this thing you want to do where we give you a blanket exemption to violate the Sherman Act so that you can keep money away from the people you've been keeping money away from all these years and hoard it all yourselves? Yeah, we're not doing that. So that's a lot of words for you're not getting a blanket antitrust exemption. Just stop wasting everyone's time. It will never pass.
Agreed.
I'm going to say it every week, but it'll never pass.
We shall see.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite thing we do, actually. Because, I mean,
Yeah, Ross puts all this work and time in. I'm like,
no, it's good because like Ross shows his prowess as a reporter, and we stay on the forefront of this. Andy, very succinct analysis, and I just get here and just get to sit here and practice not swearing on broadcast. That's what I get out of this segment. Is just
to the games,
morons.
To the games. When we come back, the games. We are back at the College Football Enquirer, and we have so many games to talk about. We'll get to I've Got a Feeling, but we've got to start with a game of massively titanic importance. We didn't get a chance to talk about it much on Tuesday. Alabama's going to Georgia. We never get to see this in the regular season. This is going to be something they do more often now, but this one's so much fun, and it is a very interesting breakdown because this is, if you follow gambling and the lines, the power ratings love Alabama right now. But the Alabama that lost to Florida State, if they go into Athens, it won't be pretty. But the power rankings that the line makers use love Alabama, and that they think this is going to be a really close game.
Maybe they're looking at the past 10 times they played.
Yes, I would also love
Kirby,
that.
1-6 as a head coach.
1-6, and I think Andy, 4 of those they were favored, and they're favored again, right? He's 1-3, I think, in the games that or the last 4 times they've played. Georgia has been favored, and they've lost 3 of the 4. Of course, the exception was the 21 national championship game in Indianapolis. But this is like Kirby's bugaboo, and everybody thought, oh, it's because of Nick, right? It's like a psychological thing because of Nick. And then last year, right, I was there. I don't know if, Andy, I can't remember if you were there, the Alabama-Georgia game. And, Alabama, 21-0, 28-0?
They were 28-0.
And then Georgia came all the way back, and then Alabama at the very end scored to go up. It was a wild game, and it was just like, man, this thing just, what is going on with Kirby and Alabama?
The amount of games this week, I counted 18 games where I think that it would be 18 sort of like A-list games I would recommend. They're all happening basically Friday. Well, I think one's on Friday night. It has distracted me from thinking about this game in a narrative sense because we're going to leave this with either wagons circling to some degree on Kalen DeBoer and or a continuation of, it's borderline inexplicable because of the transition from Saban to Kalen. That's hard to say out loud. To have this much trouble with a single program, because schematically and like personnel wise, these are very different. The streak does not make sense when you connect the two Alabama eras.
One game that, let's be honest, if Ryan Williams doesn't make that catch at the end of it, Alabama doesn't win. So I don't know that we should put that much, like, Kirby, I don't think we should. He's like, what's everybody else's record against him? Yeah. So I don't think that loss, like if Alabama goes and beats them in Athens, then by all means, let's have that discussion.
Yeah.
No, I think can we just simply say that like it was a product of Kirby building Saban's, as 90% of Saban's blueprint with a little bit of his signature on it. It was just a process of building that up over time and failing to meet the standard until they did and won 2 national titles and beat Bam. Like, to me, it's not the streak if I'm Georgia. It's that we were finally able to replicate and overcome, and then Saban was gone. The last year is almost like a completely separate conversation to have, and I think that was just, I don't know, it was just a weird game. It was a streaky game. It was a very streaky game. Yeah.
And I don't, like, Georgia is not the dominant Georgia that we got used to in that 21 and 22 season. They're not. You saw them play against Tennessee. There were deficiencies in the defense that we're not used to seeing from Georgia. But that said, they still could be the best team in the SEC. We don't know. Alabama, a lot of us, our opinions are flavored by what we saw against Florida State. But the fact of the matter is Alabama still has a top 5 roster in the whole sport. Like, if they all play well, Alabama can beat anyone in the country and can go on a run and compete for a national title.
In the last 2 years, when Georgia wins a big game, I am reminded that they are the Tiffany program of the SEC. When Georgia loses a big game, like Ole Miss last year, I am reminded and sort of convince myself that the era of the dominant team is over. So I feel like I go back and forth personally when I watch them in big games. They still have the capacity to beat, like the SEC championship, okay? Great example. But then you see the games just like Tennessee, which you could argue they should have lost that game, right? We're a kick away from having a very different ending there. And I think it's just the portal era's ability to pull apart one dominant defense. Like you're going to have a, like, you know, watching the Ole Miss game last year, you're going to have a Walter Nolan not on that line. You're going to have it in a different school. Someone's going to pay and pick apart what would have been 10 years ago, 8-9 NFL draft picks all starting at the same time for one team in the SEC. That's what we can't have anymore.
So this like quarterback battle, obviously the last time we saw Gunnar Stockton out, he threw a 4th down pass in for a touchdown to basically tie the game against Tennessee. But like, I'm still trying to figure out if Kai Simpson is the guy for Alabama.
He's looked awesome in their last 2 games.
He
almost perfect against Louisiana Monroe and Wisconsin, which I don't know if people realize Wisconsin is much closer to Louisiana Monroe than they are to Georgia.
That's my point, right? Yeah, because I know he went. Well, didn't he complete? Didn't he not miss a pass against UL Monroe? I think it was 17-17 or something like that.
Yeah, they won 17.
I'll go back to the Florida State game. Ty Simpson wasn't the problem against Florida State.
Yeah, correct.
I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It does Alabama look different than they looked against Florida State, because what you saw against Florida State was linebackers getting blown up, which you never saw in the Nick Saban era. You saw the line of scrimmage being controlled by the Seminoles, which was pretty shocking. If Georgia does that to Alabama, Alabama is not going to win. But if that was just a fluky one time, Alabama wasn't ready, didn't know what they were getting themselves into, then Alabama will be fine.
We're talking about 2 teams where we're worried about the defense, and we're talking about Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah.
By the way, Florida State.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Florida State just under 5 yards of carry in that game. That just feels like it's false.
Yeah, it's very well. I think it's indicative of Godfrey. We talk about like what really was the impact from all the NIL stuff, and I think we're seeing it right now, right?
It's parity.
Like the fact that Georgia and Alabama can't stock and can't get the depth that they used to have specifically on the front 7. I feel like, and that's what we've seen. And
I've been tempted over the years to I still believe that Kirby Smart operates the first half of Saban's brain, like pre-2012 offensive mentality, defensive-minded coach. He doesn't want to open it up. It's Mike freaking Bobo, for crying out loud. But then I think, like, well, if you plugged Gunnar Stockton into one of those teams, like if he had to play the part of like Greg McElroy, right, then instead of, Tua, then they would have been fine then too. So it's just that you can't – I don't know if you can build a 9, 10, 11, 12 Alabama defense anymore. So maybe you have to ask more of your – then if that's the case, Andy, just to make Georgia fans mad, because I try to do it once a week, then you're going to have to ask more of your quarterback. You're going to have to have more dynamic quarterback play.
Which they had to get to beat Tennessee.
He made the throw.
Look,
he made the throw. I got to shut up. I got to shut up for a minute. He made the throw. And when he left, I was like, no way. Oh, okay. All right. Most Georgia human being alive just threw a really nice pass.
He's from Tiger, Georgia, baby.
Dude, he's certified.
He drives a 1993 F-150.
I got a Bibb County birth certificate. That's the most Georgia human being I've ever seen. It's like he was made in a laboratory out of peanut shells.
Good way to end this discussion on the
nailed it.
Georgia. There you go. Perfect.
I cannot wait to see this game. Georgia's a 3-point favorite. You look at all the advanced stats. All those advanced stats previews actually have Alabama winning outright. Somebody's going to be really wrong here, and I cannot wait to see what it is.
Mr. Staples, we have 4 games that I would challenge are of this caliber, and just wherever you want to go next. Ole Miss, LSU, Indiana, Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Washington. I would say those are the heavyweights here. We
talked a ton about Oregon, Penn State, so I think we're good there. We
agree.
Really need to talk about Ohio State going to Seattle.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Kind of quietly sneaking up as like, this is something we're all going to be paying attention to that we didn't talk about all week. Not us, but you people.
I feel like we haven't talked much about Ohio State, period, since they beat Texas. And
the schedule.
I still don't know what they beat when they beat Texas. So I think we're going to find out. Now, Washington hasn't really played anybody great either. Washington State obviously beat them in the Apple Cup last year. Washington State's not nearly the same thing. They destroyed Washington State this year. DeMond Williams Jr. is a very exciting young quarterback. We saw him put up good numbers in his initial start against Oregon last year, which is the only time he's ever played one of these teams. But they also got sacked a bunch. So it's hard to tell what he's going to be able to do. He seems like the next really fun Big Ten quarterback.
Definitely. Yeah.
But you got to do it against this defense.
Yeah.
I have, I said this last week. I always feel comfortable saying this. We're not supposed to tell you things that we don't know. Sometimes we got to learn. We all got to learn together. And I don't have a beat on Ohio State. I don't have a beat on Washington. It's in Seattle. It's tempting to think that something weird might happen because this is a conference road game, even though we're basically flying across the country. It's something where it's like, hey, just pay attention to this because we're not sure what it is, but we feel like it's going to be something. Hey guys, this could also just be, yeah, you know what? They scored 100 points against Grambling in Ohio, but we can't hold that against them because that's who was on the schedule. Maybe they are that dominant too, and we leave and we're talking about this on Sunday as like, oh, they are the legit best team in college football.
So Jeremiah Smith, no argument, is the best receiver in college football.
Absolutely.
And probably will be the best receiver in all of the sport within about 3 years. He's going to play against the most interesting set of cornerbacks he's ever going to see in his life. Takario Davis and Ephesians Prysock, both guys who started their careers at Arizona with Jed Fish. Now they're with him at Washington. I believe Prysock is 6'3". Takario Davis is 6'4" with like a 6'9" wingspan. These are the rangiest corners Jeremiah Smith's ever going to see in his life. And I don't know that it matters, but I just think it's interesting because I don't know if he's ever going to play another game where both starting corners are taller than him.
Yeah, I don't think of Jeremiah Smith as matching that rangy, right? He's thick and he's fast, and it actually is amazing.
He's everything though.
He's just he's kind of just this.
He's NFL. He's it looks like.
I remember seeing him on the field. I think it was last year, Ohio State game, and I could not believe that was him. That was a receiver. That he was actually
a freshman,
played receiver, and he was 18 years old. It's like, what? Really? No, him?
I call that, Ross, I call that the Julio effect because, like, Julio was the first body we all saw where we're like, that's not physically possible. And then there were, like, 15 guys over the next 15 years that just were that big and fast. Indiana, Iowa, guys, is the one I feel the most confident about, like, in terms of an outcome. But I just want to know, like,
what is
Indiana,
your outcome?
I think Indiana wins. I think it's just a matter of like, does Iowa drag you to hell and make you play an Iowa game?
Right.
And are you that Big Ten team, or do you come in and exert your will, both sides, and negate what Iowa is so good at doing at home to opponents?
Yeah, I never want to doubt Iowa defense at home. It's just like something ingrained in your brain, right? Like this is going to be like a 16-13 game, and Iowa's going to have a chance in the very end. Like that's my automatic go-to, no matter what I've seen from the
Ross,
season.
That to me is the likeliest outcome is Indiana 16, Iowa 13. Iowa gets the ball. It's 4th and 6 at midfield, and they throw the ball 3 yards too short. That's Iowa.
Run out.
I don't think that's the likeliest outcome. Because I
think 34-14 Indiana, huh?
There you go.
Yeah.
I am done picking against Indiana.
Okay. Wow. All right.
They may. Kurt Cignetti says this is a bigger challenge than last week.
But he made sure to say that.
But that means they won't win by 53.
I really like Indiana is the second best team in the Big Ten right now.
Wow.
I don't think you're that far off, and they might be the best team in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I realize that's just weird probably going a little too far, but
yeah, it's just weird to say out loud. And we'll feel better about that, figuring that out after this weekend. Ole Miss LSU. Ferris State's quarterback going against Blake Baker, just like we all thought.
Yeah.
Just how he drew it up.
And it's probably going to be the most watchable, most entertaining game of the day, honestly.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be really even.
It usually is, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. No, this thing doesn't lack for entertainment value. Last year alone,
it was spectacular last year. Went to overtime. LSU pulls off. I believe LSU pulled off the point spread upset and the rankings upset in that one.
Fourth quarter comeback.
The rankings and the point spread don't match. Ole Miss has been a favorite since the beginning. It actually went more toward Ole Miss, has come back to 1.5. But obviously LSU is ranked much higher. But this is going to be a test for LSU's offense. Like, because you had Brian Kelly come out after the Florida game and say, hey, Doug Nussmeier's been dealing with a little kind of oblique injury. Nussmeier looked much better letting it rip last week against Southeastern Louisiana. Take it for what it's worth. But if he's able to let it rip in ways that he couldn't against Florida and Clemson, against Ole Miss, it should theoretically make them a more explosive offense. Though I still think if they can't run the ball, it's going to be a problem. And that Cobble, your man, Mr. Cobble, Ross, may find himself asking the same question of Brian Kelly, except in a very different circumstance if they can't run the ball.
I just think it's like. Go ahead, Russ.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, to me, it comes down to the other side. Blake Baker has been really successful when it's not just pin your ears back. I'm not trying to oversimplify, but his pressures have been designed specifically with quarterback in mind, like in terms of negating pass. Ole Miss does a lot of cute stuff, and like there are certain DCs or head coaches who have been really good and really effective. Like I think about Mark Stoops and all the trouble he gives Lane, but they play a very, very different style schematically. If they're going to be, if LSU's going to be aggressive in pressures, is Chambliss going to be the kid who can beat you downfield? To me, that's like what I'm more curious about how LSU's defense goes about playing around with this problem.
If you get Chambliss off his spot, he may just scramble for 10 yards.
Right. This is I'm curious on like what's the plan for contain, and then how cute is Lane? How comfortable is Lane? Like, where is his level at on getting cute? And when I say cute in regards to Lane, it's like a lot of the horizontal run or the longer developing stuff that they do. I think LSU will be fine with the tempo I think they adjust very well to when Lane wants to go fast. Most teams now do.
I would attack LSU vertically because this defense is so fast.
Right.
Yeah.
So can he do that though? Yeah. Can Chambliss do that?
It really depends on if Ole Miss can get anything going in the run game, because the way this offense works is when you can run, you can throw, but also you can use the throw to set up the run. And what you do in this offense is if you hit an intermediate or long pass play, immediately you're snapping the ball within 10 seconds of the previous play ending, and you are handing off inside zone, something simple. And that should go for 6 or 7 yards. If you can't get 6 or 7 yards on that, you are going to run into problems.
Yeah, it's kind of like shot plays are the base plays. He inverts a lot of norms in offensive play, and that's his thing. That's his signature.
Andy, did you mention earlier about Caden Durham? He's questionable?
For
running back, LSU running back, right? I mean, that's
the other issue, and they don't really have
running the football.
All right, I'm gonna. Go ahead, Andy.
All right, I was gonna say this test for Joe Sloan, his play calling capabilities.
Definitely. Yeah, no, and if Nuss is totally healthy, I think this is a very different LSU than we've seen in quality game, which is just Clemson, I guess. I was saying in quality opponents this year.
He's got a sore upper body, right? So sore core.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry. That wasn't a Florida joke. I forgot Florida, honestly. I didn't. Well, a lot of people are forgetting.
Most people have at this point.
Forgettable game. All right, I want to attempt something here. There are 4 Big 12 games. Do we all feel comfortable saying, hey, here's Texas Tech, and we're going to figure the rest out? We all feel good about that?
Yes.
Okay. There are 4 games this weekend. I think the league has done a nice job scheduling this out where we can understand who's going to be among Texas Tech and then who is a clear division down. This conference going into the season, much like last season, hard to predict. I call it a Vegas buffet, so it's a lot of random food late at night. You're making bad decisions. So we have TCU, Arizona State, Kansas, Cincinnati, Arizona, Iowa State, which is a really good game, and then BYU, Colorado. We should have a pecking order with the 4 results there. I wouldn't want to pick any of those games, except I do like BYU there.
No, it's not worth picking, but it's a very good point. I think TCU, Arizona State's the one where the loser might still be okay. Although, you don't know.
I was thinking about Arizona State.
Arizona State's only loss is out of conference.
Right.
But it is one where the
among
loser
the cowbells.
Still might be okay. That's right. Ross is
among many cowbells. Yeah.
Well, everybody's trying to figure out how good TCU is too, and I think we'll learn a lot on the road against Arizona State. I feel like because we didn't really learn much at North Carolina,
No,
and
because
whoever else they played.
SMU was a good win for them.
SMU, that's right.
Yeah, and a mean, emotional win too.
It's a tough rivalry. Scheduled version of the Iron Skillet.
Some anger there.
They let it out in that locker room afterward.
Yes,
the post-game celebration was pretty wild.
Not forget, some guys got thrown out of that game last year.
Yeah, that's right. How about Big 12 Friday night, huh? Both TCU, Arizona State, Houston, Oregon State.
I didn't include that one.
Yeah, don't include. You don't have to include that one.
Fighting Willie
Dallas. Also on Friday night, Florida State opens ACC play at Virginia.
Yeah,
it's only a touchdown spread.
I'll actually.
Right.
You're going to be at that game, Ross?
Yeah, I'm driving there tonight.
So we'll learn a little bit about Florida State, maybe.
FSU UVA.
Here's what's hilarious, guys. This weekend is such that we have not mentioned Tennessee, Mississippi State, Auburn A&M, Notre Dame, Arkansas, which has a little less luster on it. Little less luster, is that right?
Oh, we're going to mention that one. Don't you worry.
Southern Cal, Illinois. Southern Cal going to Illinois. And then
body clock game.
Yeah, and then the last two I would just mention. Louisville, Pitt, not bad. Pitt lost a backyard brawl. Kind of a, again, emotionally informed game. Fourth quarter lapse. Still a quality game. Louisville's very quietly good every year. I feel like Brom's doing a great job. And then App and Boise. Good G5 game. All right. This weekend is too crowded, Andy.
Well, we still have to tell everybody what our picks are. I finally got one of these right. So, gentlemen, it is time for I've Got a Feeling.
You think football is still fun? I feel great, man. I got a bad feeling about this.
Okay, so last week, the Arkansas Razorbacks and the Memphis Tigers came through for me in a game that I thought would be close and wound up being close. And I didn't think Memphis would win outright, but they did. I'm going back to the Hogs well right now. Arkansas.
The trough?
The trough.
Yeah.
Well, how did I miss that one?
Come on,
Andy.
Right there. Yes, I'm going back to the trough. Woo!
Wow.
All right, enough.
Clip that, TJ.
Notre Dame is going to Fayetteville. I don't care about the spread in this game, though Notre Dame is favored, and I think Notre Dame is going to win. What I care about is how many points are going to be scored, because I got a feeling that this will blow up the message boards with the way this ends, because it'll blow up the Arkansas message boards because they're not going to win the game. It'll blow up the Notre Dame message boards because they're going to once again give up a ton of points in a win, and they're going to freak out about their defense. Arkansas just has a really good offense, but Arkansas does not have a very good defense. So in this game between Arkansas and Notre Dame, the total is 64.5. Take the over. It is going over.
All right. I have a feeling that no one understands the triple option as well as they should, and especially Vegas. Our beloved Rice Owls under first-year coach Scott Abel is going to Annapolis. Navy's very good. They are the superior between Navy and Army this year. They are the best service academy. They are 3-0. I really like what Newberry's done. I made a little mea culpa there because we gave Chet Gladchuck a lot of hell, or I did, for the way that they let go of Kenny Matalolo. Navy is the superior team with a better roster right now.
Can I praise Navy's offensive coordinator, Drew Cronick, former Mercer head coach?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ran the wing tee at Mercer.
Yeah, he did.
Then went to Navy.
Yes.
And blended the wing tee into the triple option to create the greatest late 70s, early 80s offense of all time.
It's pretty awesome.
Now.
Yeah.
Huge fan of the Mercer Bears. Go Bears. Go make it. Navy, better team, better roster. 14.5 feels like a lot, because when option teams meet each other, there's such an advanced knowledge, at sort of like a base setting of what the other team can do and how to fit runs and how to defend things, that I think it's always a much closer game than odds makers would normally project.
Also,
or
there
anticipate.
are so few possessions in an option team versus an option team.
So is Navy the superior team? Yes. But are they just a single bad play or maybe a turnover away from a much tighter game? Absolutely, because that's just the nature of how these things go. Like Andy said, you will reduce possessions down to very few. I'm going to go with Rice and the points here. I think Navy wins the game, but I just think it's going to be much, much closer.
All right. Syracuse hosts Duke. Now, I know what you're thinking. Syracuse's starting quarterback is out. Why would I be going with the orange to cover the 5.5?
Fran Brown,
and trust in those South Louisiana boys.
Okay.
Ricky Collins, backup quarterback, East Baton Rouge Parish, highly rated guy, came out of Louisiana a couple of years ago. Spent, I think, 1, maybe 2 years at LSU. First start, I know it's a little shaky, but I'm trusting in him to get it done against the Blue Devils, or at least keep them within 5.5 points.
So Duke showed the biggest pulses shown all year by beating NC State last week in a really good game.
Yep.
Syracuse goes down and beats Clemson. And, this is an interesting one because Fran Brown named Ricky Collins his starter coming out of spring practice and then went and took Steve Angeli. I think he would have been very confident rolling with Ricky Collins had he never gotten Steve Angeli. I think Syracuse is going to be fine. And I say that as someone who, they've got the toughest schedule in the ACC probably in terms of a conference schedule. And I think they're going to be all right. And the more I watch Fran Brown, the more impressed I get. So
yes,
like we talked about the Kurt Signetti, I think this is a guy who he just gets it. He's going to be a really great coach for a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure, Godfrey, I know you talk to like a lot of we both do, a lot of the folks in the agent world. And this week was a lot of texts about Fran and the coaching cycle and all that.
Funniest Fran Brown agent story, though. He went and got the Syracuse job without telling his agent.
Ha!
He basically reached out to John Wildhack himself or whoever was running the search. I can't remember if they had a search firm. But basically reached out himself, said, I'd like to be involved in this. They interview him. They offer him the job. And then he calls his agent. He's like, hey, I just got the Syracuse job. Go negotiate a contract.
Yeah.
I wish that would happen more often. Duke?
It's kind of like Seinfeld. It's like Kramer taking the deal with the cigarette company, taking the settlement.
Yeah.
And Jackie.
This is the most public of my many humiliations.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Duke was, that Illinois game might end up very differently now because that was a mistake-filled Duke game, a lot of turnovers. But also, I'm really concerned. Duke went and bought a quarterback. They did not buy any receivers. They did not buy any.
Yeah,
they might
at least
be
3 or 4 drops in that.
No respect for former Harvard receiver Cooper Barkate.
Hold on to the damn
that's
ball.
Who they did get.
I feel like I just went full Friday Night Lights. Hold on to what do I need to do for you to hold on to the damn ball?
Well, everybody needs to hold on to the damn ball this weekend because it is going to be wild. Our brains are going to be fried. By the time we convene Sunday morning to talk about this.
Sunday's going to be hard, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a lot.
Yeah. But I can't wait to watch it. I hope everybody enjoys it. I hope everybody has a safe weekend. Don't do anything that we wouldn't. And we'll talk to you on Sunday.